What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. So in this video, I want to talk about and discuss the recent developments in the criminal case involving Tory Lanez allegedly shooting Megan Thee Stallion. So you guys may or may not have heard, but an apology leaked to the press. This isn't, as far as I know, this is not an official statement or an official apology, but there was an apology that leaked to the press of Tory Lanez apologizing to Megan Thee Stallion. Um, Nevertheless, in the apology, which nobody provided screenshots of, it came in the form of a text message. Again, no screenshots of the text message. And also, based on what was actually leaked to the press, there wasn't really there wasn't an admission of culpability in regards to Tory Lanez allegedly shooting Megan Thee Stallion. And again, this is not an official statement. This is allegedly a text message that Tory Lanez sent to Megan Thee Stallion about 15 hours after the situation between them happened. So I'm going to read what this text actually says, and then I'll discuss it. So Tory Lanez allegedly texts, "I know you probably never gonna talk to me again, but I genuinely want you to know I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. I was just too drunk. Nonetheless, ish should have never happened, and I can't change what did. I just feel horrible because I genuinely just got too drunk." And that's pretty much it. So it's like, okay, what exactly, it's a lot to unpack here, by the way, but what exactly are you apologizing for? That's like, apologizing 101. Like, if you're going to apologize, then there has to be an admission of guilt and culpability and remorse for something, right? You can't just give one of these BS apologies like, if I did anything to hurt you, or I apologize if you were offended, or apologize for, it's like saying these like weak apologies that really are kind of like, well, if I did something, or, it doesn't really, like, the apology doesn't really mean anything if you don't really take responsibility and accountability for what you did, right? So it seems like he's not quite giving an apology like that, but he's also not really addressing what needs to be addressed, right? And I feel like because there are no screenshots of this alleged text message, either this text message doesn't really exist and they just leaked this to the press just to um, get something from Tory without having to really say anything too much, or either um, the text message was edited, right? Whereas, like, there may be more to the text, but since there were not screenshots of the text, they just edited the text in a way that showed Tory Lanez apologizing, but not what he was apologizing for. Because it sounded like he just apologizing for being drunk and perhaps being obnoxious, when it's much more to the story than just being an obnoxious drunk, right? So if this text message does exist, and he did in fact send this to Megan Thee Stallion 15 hours or so after the incident, then Megan Thee Stallion should have a copy of the text, unless she deleted it. Hopefully, if this is for real, she did not delete the text, because that is great evidence. And as well, perhaps even the cell phone company may have a copy of the text as well, right? And you know, if you're like, if you are truly apologizing to someone about something, then you have to admit fault to something. Again, like, what is he apologizing for? And as well, this is the only thing we got from Tory Lanez as of yet. And I don't really see people pressuring Tory to speak on this situation as much as they were pressuring Megan to speak on it. Then when she spoke on it, then turning around and saying she doesn't need to talk about this, and that this should be handled behind closed doors, etc. Right? Then shaming her for talking about it, even though you pressed her for it. Right? You pressed her to prove that she was injured. You pressed her to prove and to come out and make a statement and accusing the person, Tory Lanez, you know, coming on record and saying it, hey, this guy shot me. Tory Lanez shot me, right? But again, where is his official statement? Because this is really just a leaked text message to the press, to the media. Like, okay, we need more than that. And oddly enough, I feel like this is enough for a lot of people. Not everybody, but a segment of people. This is more than enough, because they really weren't, down for Megan to begin with. So, oh, he apologized. Things happen, right? Right. And the thing is, when other groups of people do this, non-black groups of people do this, especially say like the president's son, excusing that shooter up in, I believe, Wisconsin, like, oh, he said something, I forgot how he phrased it exactly, but something to the effect of, you know, we all were young once, we all did things that were, not right. Pretty much just acting like he perhaps, you know, um, drove without a license or something, or maybe drove with a permit instead of a license or something, something that was really minor. Um, but yeah, so, that's kind of like the situation and the latest update with the situation between Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion. And there's people coming through again acting like, oh, Tory Lanez apologized, things happen, people make mistakes, and it's like, well, yes, those things are true, but we gonna need more than this. This ain't even an official statement. This is a leaked text message to the press. Like, really? And the sad thing is, I see people, especially black women, getting full off of this, getting full off of these crumbs. And it's like, well, some, not all, but it's a segment. Uh, a, a segment that's big enough where it's like, it's okay, we gotta address this. We gotta speak on this a little bit at least, right? And it's just like, no, this ain't enough, right? And as well, there's people saying, when Megan talking about, you know, black women being unprotected and such, it's like, oh, well, Megan doesn't represent all black women. Megan just represents herself, which I find to be a little odd, because lately we've been seeing these, a few black men in the media being victims of police brutality, right? And it's like, well, we can argue that those black men don't represent all black men or all black people. They just represent themselves. So why the protest, right? And the reason why we protest is because we feel like it could have been us as well. We feel like we have to send a message that this is not okay. And as well, you just have to do what's right or what you feel is right, right? So again, when it comes to Megan Thee Stallion, again, that concern, that urgency isn't there as strong. And again, like, she's a celebrity, so she should have. I should expect to see a bit more urgency than I'm seeing, but people are still kind of just making jokes about it, right? It's just something funny that happened, right? And it wasn't really a big deal. Oh, she just got shot in her feet. You know, it's not her foot, but her feet, right? And, to those people, I'm like, okay, if it's not a big deal, let me shoot you in your feet. Not even your feet, just the foot. Let's see how you act. Let's see how things go for you, right? And again, when it comes to this police brutality, as quiet as it's kept, I feel like some of this may be karma, you know, may be the Lord's work, you know, making, setting things straight. Because if we leave it up to the black community, I don't think things are going to get set straight. So again, like a lot of these dudes who end up in these police brutality situations usually have done something to warrant some police attention in some way. Sometimes it's minor, sometimes it's a bit more major, right? But again, people were victim blaming Megan. Like, oh, she somehow, some way brought this on herself, right? She should have known better, right? And it's like, well, shouldn't these black men who got caught up in these police brutality situations know better? Shouldn't George Floyd have known better than to try and pass off counterfeit money? Right? Shouldn't Jacob Blake had known better than to, what did Jacob Blake do? End up in some sort of getting the police called on him because of some domestic disturbance situation, I believe, even though he has a warrant out for his arrest. So he should have definitely known better than to get caught up in some police stuff because, again, he has a warrant out for his arrest. Probably from skipping his court date, perhaps. And, one more thing about this situation, and then I'm going to segue into another situation. And, again, with the Tory Lanez, it's like folks is giving him kudos for this weak apology, for the bare minimum. Did Tory Lanez even offer to pay Megan Thee Stallion's medical bills? Right? I don't think so. All right, I just don't think so. And again, and this really proves Megan Thee Stallion right because she did say that Tory Lanez, like his people, were like behind the scenes trying to push out false narratives and things like that. So I think Megan Thee Stallion was being truthful about that. Tory Lanez and his people are doing things behind the scenes with the media, trying to paint it so that Megan is like the bad person, right? But speaking of doing the bare minimum, I want to segue into my thoughts on what Bun B had to say. And, someone had actually requested my thoughts about this, and I was going to do it before the request, but some time had passed by, and it just kind of fell by the wayside. But since this situation has come up, I just want to come through and give my thoughts and opinions about, the things that Bun B had to say. So, for me, it's like, I think what Bun B said was great, and it needed to be said. However, I do caution black women on rewarding black men for for one, doing what they're supposed to do, and also doing the bare minimum. I don't think I don't think black women need to be handing out Black King trophies for this. Because right now, this is words. Like, these are words. Pretty words, nice words, you know, great words to hear. But nevertheless, it's just words. It's not action right now. And really, we need some action right now as well to follow up with the words. And, I have to bring this up because I know, again, black women, you're used to getting full off of crumbs. One way or another, either the community shames you into accepting crumbs, or either you have just become so accustomed to accepting crumbs, that you just accept the bare minimum and get full off of it and act like it's the best thing ever, right? Again, don't be fooled by pretty words, right? Wait to see if there's some action coming behind these words. Notice in the video, he did mention that he initially tried to be impartial and not get involved because he knows both of them. So, low key, he was staying out of it and trying to quote unquote stay neutral, which ultimately ended up working in Tory Lanez's favor and working against Megan Thee Stallion's favor, right? And ultimately, Bun B was quote unquote staying on code, right? And, he mentioned in the video that, Megan Thee Stallion, pretty much the people who care about her are deceased at this point, like her mother, her father, her grandmother, and I don't believe Megan Thee Stallion has siblings either. So, to an extent, she doesn't really have, like, perhaps the strongest familial base right now. So she may be in sort of a tough space when it comes to her personal life, right? Which she perhaps alluded to in a previous upload that she did about the situation. Right. And he mentioned that, rehabilitate Tory Lanez, get him rehab or therapy, right? And, notice that we aren't trying to, just throw out Tory Lanez, right? Notice that we're not trying to get rid of Tory Lanez, even though, quote unquote, Megan Thee Stallion should have knew better. But notice we're not trying to get rid of Tory Lanez, though. Tory Lanez can redeem himself somehow. He can do something, right? We're just not going to remove Tory Lanez for one reason or another, right? Even though if the situation was flipped, really, honestly, if it was Megan that was alleged to have shot Tory, this situation would be playing out a lot differently. And I think we all know that, right? People would have been pressing Megan for a response, and Tory Lanez would get the ultimate victim treatment, at least in the black community, right? Even if Tory Lanez may have brought it on himself somehow. Oh, you didn't have to shoot him. You ain't had to shoot that Black King like that, right? Something, right? And again, he's saying that Tory Lanez, like low-key, he's saying that Tory Lanez should be helped versus being punished. Because notice he didn't really mention any punishment for Tory Lanez and what he did. And there were some people coming through talking about, oh, this needs to be handled behind closed doors and without the law, right? And the thing is, I'm like, well, if that happens, then Megan Thee Stallion sure heck is not getting justice. Do not count on the black community handling things in favor of getting justice for Megan Thee Stallion or another black woman when a black man is involved in the culprit somehow. I just don't see that happening unless he's like just supremely just dead wrong. And even then, it'd be some sort of an excuse, right? No. And Bun B also mentioned that this ain't no real quote unquote N word ish. And I agree. I don't think that is like gangsta for a dude to be shooting a female, to be shooting women. Like, like, where is that like cool and fly? Like, you know, like really? Tory Lane should be getting clowned just for that. And people are defending Tory like he shot at the authorities. Honestly, I think that would be a much better story, than him shooting at Megan the Stallion, right? But Tory Lanez knows better than not to than to shoot at the authorities. You know, really, he wasn't supposed to have that gun in the first place, right? And as well, I wonder who was driving. It could have been either Tory Lanez or his bodyguard. Tory Lanez in the text mentioned that he was drunk. If he was drunk, then he should not have been driving. And as well, he should not have had that firearm. He is not a citizen of the United States and he does not have a license to carry. So he should not have had that to begin with. So just on that alone, he probably could get deported. He probably will end up getting deported, unless perhaps Tory has a great legal team that can work something out, which, Tory Lane's got access, to that. Tory Lane's got money, perhaps, right? But of course, there's other things involved in it, him shooting at an American citizen, harming an American citizen. Megan Thee Stallion is an American citizen. She is ADOS as far as I know. So I think in that regard, yes, Megan Thee Stallion most definitely deserves some justice. And Bun B also mentioned love versus obsession, which I definitely like that part, especially. And I think Drea Michelle needs to really listen to that part because what she was talking about, I'm like, really? Again, she may have been joking, you know, maybe half serious, half not. Again, I don't really think she should have done that. I don't think that was a very nice thing to do, especially at Megan Thee Stallion's um, expense. It took me a minute to think of that word. I'm like, expense, like account. Okay. But Bun B also mentioned that, we love Megan in Houston, but people are silent about this, are making jokes about this, though. He also mentioned that he didn't see the situation covered on the local news in Houston. Hmm, interesting. But yeah, I do feel like Megan being a black woman, I feel like it did play a factor in people's response to this, unfortunately. And hopefully Megan learns something from this situation. Um, Hopefully other black people in general, but especially black women, get something from this situation. Yeah. And also, I just thought of something. Like, for Tory Lanez, like, this situation happened a good minute ago. And he just now is saying something, Yeah, it's just like, really? Just, a day late and a dollar short. Plenty of dollars short. And plenty of days late. So it's like, what is this really supposed to do? Honestly, he probably should have just kept this. I'm not sure if this is, like, what is this really supposed to do? From Tory Lanez and his people's perspective. Like, what is this supposed to actually do? But I'm going to bring this video to a close. But thanks for watching. Hopefully, Megan gets justice, right? I hope so. I really hope that Megan can get some justice somehow, some way. I'm rooting for Megan Thee Stallion. But, thanks a lot for watching this video. Please let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments section. And until the next video, adios and goodbye for now. Oh yeah, and congratulations to um, Megan Thee Stallion as well as Cardi B for getting a #1 song. Heck, even through all the controversy, Megan Thee Stallion, she's still getting to the #1 spot. So, hats off to her for that. Right? Still, making it do what it do even through all this chaos. So that's what's up. But see you in the next video. Peace out.